listening to those sweet birds in the woods. And I'm thinking there's something that separates us from all the other creatures on earth. And it's not that we speak or that we have governments and write books or have YouTube videos. It's our ability to harness all of the elements in nature and repurpose them. And we don't always do a good job. Sometimes we create things we shouldn't. Something as simple as the tripod that's holding up my camera, or the plastics that make up the microphone in the camera itself, wouldn't exist without our ability to harness these raw materials. My pocket knife, the steel that makes up that blade, wouldn't exist without one thing. My shirt's giving it away. Fire. Like Ignis Lux coffee. Fire. Our ability as humans to make fire is a singular thing that most species cannot do. I've got my good buddy Clay Hayes out here today, and we're going to look at some primitive fire making skills. Friction fire. We're going to build a bow drill. Clay was winner on season 8 of Alone. Very good woodsman. I've spent some time with him the last few years, and his family. They're lovely people, and I've enjoyed spending some time with him today. You're going to see me struggle to get it done, but I'm not a quitter and I do it. And you're going to see him make it look so easy. There is a technique. There is right and wrong. It's not just brute force. I thought about, as I went through the video, this is being filmed now after we did it, there was a lot of very nuanced things to make it look as easy as he did, while I made it look hard. Why don't you join us? We're going to look at some friction fire making skills, and I will say this: anything worth doing is worth doing right. Let's dig in. Well, hey guys, check this out. We've got Clay Hayes out here, who is going to spend a little bit of time on this lush green summery day to see if he can show us how to do primitive fire making. Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
primitive fire. Friction fire. You don't like the word primitive?
Well, yeah, it's a primitive fire making method.
Using friction.
Using friction.
We all like friction. So we're going to show you as quick as he can do it, and I'm just going to kind of follow around with the camera. He's going to source some materials here off the land. I am going to give him a piece of paracord, but you could use a shoelace.
Yeah.
You could twist your beard hair into a yarn or something.
Yeah, I've done it with natural cordage before. I don't have the luxury of time to go out and scout natural materials for cordage. I usually do replace my boot laces with paracord because they last forever and they just don't break. And I have in the past just pulled my boot laces out and used that for the cord. So we're gonna make a bow drill set, and you'll need the string to spin the spindle.
All right. So you have found a piece of a cottonwood tree.
Yeah.
And why'd you choose that branch?
So first of all, cottonwood, there's a lot of different species around here. I'm looking for something that's relatively soft wood, as opposed to something like an oak. And then also, I'm looking for something that doesn't have a lot of pitch in it. So pines normally wouldn't be a good choice. Sometimes you can find pine that doesn't have pitch in it. Cedar works well. But I look for a branch that's kind of got some exposure to the sunlight, exposure to some wind, just trying to find something that's a little bit drier, because it is very lush out here right now. It's been raining over the last couple of days, kind of off and on. And I can tell, even this one, I can tell it's just a little bit, has a little bit more moisture than I would like. You can feel that kind of clamminess.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I would typically do is I would collect all my materials, I would make the bow drill set, and then I would, when I say collect materials, I'm including tinder in that too, so the fine fuels that's gonna catch and expand the coal, which that'll make more sense here in a minute. And I'd set all that stuff in direct sunlight and just let it dry for a couple of hours.
So if you didn't have direct sunlight and it was kind of crummy weather, this might not work so well.
It definitely when it's damp, or when it's been raining, high humidity, all of those things make it more challenging, but it doesn't make it impossible. So we don't have the luxury of being able to let this stuff sit around until this afternoon. And so what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and make the set, and then when I start to make the coal, you'll see I'll start to rotate this spindle, and I'll do it for longer than normal, and not with a lot of pressure. And what that's going to do is just it's going to create heat, but not enough to make it like char, and that's just going to help to dry it out. So basically, I'm using the friction to dry it out versus
Beat the moisture
the
out of the
sun.
wood.
It's a little bit, it's more work, but it unless it's just, you know, too damp, it works.
So you want to find a nice spot to get some carving done?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So one of the ways that you can gauge how much moisture is in wood is just by snapping it. That bent a little bit before it broke. You come out here, see that's bending. There's too much moisture in that to use for kindling. You come out here and that's fairly dry. If it snaps clean without bending too much, it's pretty dry. So I'll just go ahead and break some of this stuff off. We can use that for kindling later. And then go ahead and just select a nice straight piece to use as a spindle.
So you went to school for biology, worked like 10 years you worked for the Forest Service?
Fish and game.
Fish and game. And then got sick of working for the man and you went off on your own and started a school to teach people bow making.
Yeah,
right?
so kinda. I was actually started making YouTube videos in I think 2009 or something like that, and never really thought it would turn into anything. I just like making videos, and I was teaching people how to make bows, and I was making a lot of bows at that time. But the channel just kept growing and growing, and until eventually, you know, I was making a fair bit of money, not directly on YouTube, like from ad revenue, but just from like stuff that surrounds YouTube. And it got to the point where it was like untenable to work full time at my job and put as much time into YouTube as I was. I just wasn't being a very good husband and father. I wasn't there, you know. I was either at work or I was on the computer, and thought I could give it a go and make it work with YouTube, and took off from my job in 2017, and it's the best decision I ever made. I was able to spend much more time with the family. We go on adventures. We can go spend all of September in the mountains. Just go wherever we want.
It's fantastic.
Do whatever we want.
Tell me about that knife. It's a very beautiful, shiny blade.
Yeah, that's I don't know what the model of it, from Montana Knife Company. Made out of the steel's Magna Cut stainless. I like it.
Holds an edge real nice.
Yeah,
How is it to sharpen?
All their knives hold an edge, and I've got a couple of different sharpeners from Work Sharp that I really like, and you can make them into a scalpel.
I like that.
So I don't have a saw with me, so I'm just kind of reducing the diameter on this and giving me a place that I can break this.
And of course, we have access to tools here, but you're just showing us how it can be done with just a knife.
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys, we're not actually in the wilderness.
It's a life or death situation here.
With the family car over there. Very nice.
So I need to get to the inside of this, so I'll just split this.
Do you ever have people comment on you like doing stuff with a knife that they think is unsafe?
Yes, all the time. And
I knew the answer before I asked the question, but
I say, well, I haven't killed myself yet. I haven't killed myself even once.
So not even once, huh?
So that's good. That actually split pretty straight. I'm just going to square that up a little bit. And it's sometimes people, you know, they'll see me in here like, you know, doing stuff like this. You shouldn't cut toward yourself. I was like, I mean, this is complete controlled. If I'm cutting like this, like I'm not going to stab myself in the guts, you know. If I'm cutting like that and I slip, that's a different story. Subtle, but it's a subtle difference, you know.
I think that there is, with any tools, there is a point where certain level of maybe mastery can be reached. Like you watch a roofer moving around on a roof and he can do things that you wouldn't have a non-roofer do on a roof.
So I'm making, to make the fireboard here, the hearth, you have to make just a little divot. I'm gonna have to go find a handhold here too. So that'll take the spindle that I'm gonna make, and eventually once I get that burned in, I'll cut a notch, and that's where the coal will form.
So this morning, Clay and I woke up in different beds, of course, and he said, hey, you want to make a video before I hit the road? And I said, yeah, make us a fire. And he was like, ugh. Actually, he didn't say that. He said, all right, we can do that. Just like that in that Tennessee drawl, even though you guys are from Florida.
I'm not from Tennessee.
I know, but you sound like it sometimes. Some of you are like, yeah.
That's because you're unfamiliar with the southern dialects.
Southern dialects. Yeah.
Like oil and
I
water.
need you to be careful with that knife.
Yes, sir. That spindle's actually really short. I might have to redo that.
Uh-oh. The old short spindle syndrome, huh? So one of the things he and I have been talking about the last couple days during our visit is him trying to incorporate some humor into his videos. And it doesn't sound like it's gonna happen. But since this is my video, we're gonna put some in there. So too short doesn't give you enough area to wrap your cordage around. You get too close to the work surface. What's the?
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably work. I'll give it a try. Do you have any pines around here?
Of course we do.
Where's one? Show me one.
Let's think where the best pine is. Let's do a pine
Resin.
pause. The old glob of resin routine, huh?
Yeah, so people typically think of pine sap as being sticky, and it is very sticky, but it also, when you heat it up, it's an oil, so it can also act as a lubricant. And so what I'm gonna do is make a handhold, and I'll put pine resin in that handhold. So I'll explain that when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking for is golf balls. There's lots of golf balls in here. Sweet.
Nice.
Right. I'm looking for a pine tree with a branch that's been ripped off, or some sort of wound where it's kind of weeping resin, so I can collect some. There's lots of good snappy kindling in here.
Just following this guy through the woods as he's playing with bark and shit. What'd you find?
A little bit.
A little bit.
It's not really much.
So like we're on property that we know out in the woods. You just got to kind of walk around till you find the stuff you need, huh?
Yeah.
What you doing?
Making a handhold.
Using a little piece of oak, it looks like.
It's like maybe, is that oak?
Red oak, I cut it myself.
All right. Good hardwood.
That was one of the beaver kills.
So this is going to be the handhold, and for the handhold you want as little friction as possible, which is why we went around and looked for sap, found a little bit of pine sap, and also you want some hard material. Ideally, you'd find a nice little palm-shaped stone with a divot in it. That'd be perfect. We looked for one of those, couldn't find them, and so what I'm doing is just taking a piece of oak and making a little divot in here, just something to hold that with, and then I'll lubricate it with some pine pitch here in a minute.
Very cool. Looking for a little bow making material?
Yeah.
Oh, that looks bendy. What's that?
I think this is a dogwood, like a wild dogwood maybe, or I don't know, we'll look it up. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Was that one slash?
Yeah, man.
Nice. So that's way heavier than I would have thought for a bow.
You don't want it to flex a lot.
Because then it's absorbing the energy instead of the energy going into the...
You want it to be pretty taut, remain from this angle.
So we got our cheater piece of paracord. We're not twisting body hair into rope today.
I don't have enough hair for that.
Be a lot cooler if you did. Any special knot you like?
The two knots I use more often than any other, probably all other knots combined, are the bowline.
I was going to say
the trucker's hitch. Use the trucker's hitch much?
I have. Now my brother, who taught me the bowline years ago, who's a professional climber, tower rescue trainer, does not use the bowline for much of anything anymore.
Yeah. Why is that?
We were just talking about it the other day. I think it's for life and safety when you're hanging on it. I just think there's superior knots is his argument. At some point we're going to have to show off that sheath that you made there.
Oh yeah.
While he's tying that up, you guys should check out some basic knot tying stuff. It's pretty amazing watching a man that's got zero knot tying skills try to do something with rope where it's supposed to hold.
So I'm going to try this little spindle and probably will end up making a different one.
All right, so you twist her onto the string, just one wrap. Is there any efficacy to making a groove for the thing to the string to ride in? I've seen some people talk about that.
I've dished it out a little bit. Like if I have trouble with it riding up or down, I've dished it out, but I've never actually made a groove. Kind
of just a little shallow, I think is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of I'm going to burn the spindle into the fireboard here.
Would you look at that?
And it'll start to smoke in a minute, but we're not making fire. We're just making the set right now.
So don't get yourself too excited is what you're saying.
No. I'm actually starting to smoke in the handhold more.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Where's that? Can you hand me a little piece of that pine pitch right there?
Where'd you put it?
Right on that
rock.
rock.
I see it.
Just like
I see it. Look at this. Look at this. It's like finding pine pitch in the woods. There you go.
So just need a little dab in there.
Which you often, like you said earlier, you would think pine pitch, sticky glue,
yeah.
But when it heats up, it gets kind of...
Gets runny.
Like warm honey.
Kind of looks like honey too.
It does, except it doesn't taste like honey.
Doesn't taste like honey. Doesn't taste very good at all.
Terpenes.
And that stuff, it'll lubricate until you burn off the moisture in it, and then it just gets really gummy, and then you got to put more in there.
Okay. Is there something better that if nature provided you could use? Like a
Fat.
fat.
Animal fat.
Okay, there we go.
Would be great. Don't have any of that. You can use, like if you hadn't had a shower in a couple days and you're kind of greasy,
Oh, yeah.
you can use body oils like out of your hair. Sometimes you get on the side of your nose will get a little oily.
What's the longest you've gone without a shower or bath? And I don't mean in your college years. I mean like out in the woods.
A proper bath with soap, 74 days. That's when I was on alone.
That's awesome. So a lot of you guys probably recognize this guy from season 8. We've been filming. If you haven't checked out the videos that I've put up with him in the past, I've had him on a couple of podcasts. He's got a cool YouTube channel. Look at that smoke, baby. That was like nothing. Have you done this before? I want to change the angle of the dangle because you're making a big shadow.
All right.
Although maybe the shadow might help. Okay.
I can move. All right, so I've got my my spindles burned into the fireboard now. So now, if I just continue to do this, like I'm gonna get dust, but it's gonna go all the way around. It's just gonna get displaced. What I have to do is cut a notch in this, and that's gonna give the dust a place to collect and build heat. And that's where the coal.
So as the spindle comes around, it'll fall off into that V.
Yep. So I'm just gonna cut like a 45 into here.
You guys watching, this is kind of off the cuff video. We're filming on a cell phone. We've got basic lav mics, so I apologize for the not amazing audio video, but I do want you to see, not simple in the sense of easy, but there's not a lot going on here. If we took all of our BSing out of it, probably took Clay 10 minutes to walk around the property and find the things, and I've been asking questions, so it probably would have taken him more like 2 minutes. And he has been here for a few days, so he's got to see the lay of the land. But he's found the stuff. All he's using is a pocket knife. I did give him a piece of paracord, but if he had to, he could cut something off of his clothes. He's got Crocs on. There's no shoestrings on Crocs. We should make some type of paracord bling for Crocs, for guys like you and me that wear Crocs.
Survival Crocs, I like it.
Yeah, dude.
All right, so I've got my notch cut in there, and you see it doesn't go all the way to the center. There's a very good reason for that. If I were to take this all the way to center, and the point, so the notch comes all the way to the point of the spindle, that spindle is gonna ride out. It's gonna burn out into the notch. You don't want that. You need a divot below the notch so that you have something that keeps it centered. Does that make sense?
Can you show us one more time? Just pull it up and I'll get the camera in on it.
So you can see this notch doesn't quite go to center. I've still got, an 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch between the deepest part of the notch and the center of that. And that's so that this spindle, the tip of that spindle right there has a place to ride. If I cut it all the way to the center, it would burn out and kind of kick out into the notch.
And you probably lose some friction contact points too.
Yeah.
Cool thing about that is if you screwed that up, you just go over an inch or two and start all over, right?
Yeah, and you'll see people that, once you make a set like this, you cut the fireboard long and you just keep using it. You'll have 20 different, because these burn through eventually.
Yeah, after rubbing and rubbing, you're just gone too deep.
Yeah.
So why are you doing that?
Just sharpen it up a little bit. It's a little bit too shallow. It'll probably, if I didn't sharpen it like this, it'd pop out eventually. So it'll blunt off again as I'm
That's the
working.
top.
This is the bottom.
That's the bottom.
Yeah. All right, so
Need your tinder. Okay, so you forage some.
Got some grass clippings, and then this is the inner bark from the cottonwood, the same that we're using for the spindle and the hearth. And I collected these maybe an hour ago and just kind of set them in the sun. So I'm gonna work this into a ball and make it as fine as I can make it, just fluff it up and get all those little fibers as fine as I can. You can see it's pretty dry. It's just kind of like disintegrating.
Yeah, the dust is blowing off into the wind. All we are is cottonwood dust in the wind.
Missed your calling.
That was your spot right there. You should have chimed in with, ah.
I'm not that good. So I'm hoping that this is going to be fine enough to expand. I think it will be. All right, so when I start spinning this, and you're going to see black dust starting to form, because this stuff is a little bit higher moisture content than I would like, because it's been raining over the last couple of days. What you might see is the quality of the dust really makes a huge difference. It doesn't, if it's totally burnt up and black, like it's just not going to ignite. On the other end of the spectrum, you might get like a brown pill looking, not quite a dust, almost like it's rolling into what look, if you looked at it under a microscope, it'd look like little cigars or something like that. That's an indication of the moisture being too high.
Kind of like we were talking about the kid at lunch rolling the bread into bread balls.
And that bread rolls into balls because it's got moisture in it. And so what we're looking for is kind of a dark brown dust, and not that kind of pilly looking, not quite dust. That's a terrible explanation, but you get the point.
I don't think so. I think I understand.
You get the point. That I've collected here, and this is just going to give the dust a place to fall in and collect. I'm actually going to take the bottom off of this.
Make it a little flatter.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Sometimes your cordage will slip around the spindle, and when that happens, you can loosen this on the bow a little bit and make 2 wraps, and usually that'll take care of it.
Oh, the old 2-wrap routine, eh? All right. So as you begin, you've got your tinder set up, kind of how you like it. You've got a little pitch. You kind of got everything within reach. We've got some little bigger kindling size stuff if we choose to turn this into a fire, which we've decided we're just going to get to the flameage point.
Yep. So when I first start this, again, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. I'm not putting a lot of speed into it. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to dry it out, and I'm trying to fill this notch up with that kind of dark brown dust. Once you get that notch filled, you actually stop and take a break if you're tired, and just be careful to leave the dust there. But the notch has to fill up. That's one of the mistakes that people make when they first start this, is they go hard and fast right off. What is it?
No, keep going.
So one of the mistakes that people make when they first start with this friction fire is they start seeing a little bit of smoke, and they just put a lot of pressure on it. They really start cranking on that thing, and they're putting all that pressure on there before the notch is filled up with dust. And if they do that, you're just burning up your material. You're turning it into like just pure carbon, basically. It's just black.
You need that dust to make a coal.
Exactly. You need that notch filled with that dark brown dust before you really start cranking on it.
There's some adult content jokes in here.
Go hard and fast right off. You got to warm it up. You got to warm it up a little bit. So if you watch that notch, you'll see the dust starting to fall into it and collect. And that dust looks pretty good. Like I'm starting to get a little bit of smoke. Like I want to minimize the smoke. You're always going to get some, but I don't want just a ton of it. I don't want it boiling.
Doing any kind of breathing exercises to keep yourself not getting too hot and sweaty out of the gate? Because you're pumping.
No, just breathing.
Do you ever do any prayers to the fire gods as you're doing this? Like, oh, fire god, please give me good coalage. Anything like that?
I haven't, but now that you put the idea in my head, it's probably not a bad idea.
So you felt it getting a little frictiony and decided you wanted a little more lube?
Yeah, so my notch is pretty much, I kind of knocked it down a little bit, but it's pretty much filled up.
Let's get in there and see a little peek.
I'll put a little bit more in there before I really start cranking on it.
Oh, that's really nice.
You know, if it starts to grab here, might as well just stop and put a little bit of lube on it.
I like it.
Keep that thing slippery.
How many times have you done this tutorial? I mean, you know, it's interesting the way the internet works. I could have just said, hey, go check out this guy's stuff.
I don't know. I mean, I've done a couple of friction fire videos on my channel, but I could, you know, with every time you do it, you reach new people. A lot of times it's the same people that are watching it, but
You know what's funny about this stuff? Like anything, but anything men are involved in, guys are going to argue. You should have used this. Should have done that. Targets don't lie. And it's either, what'd you say last night? Fire's fire. It's either
fire.
burning or it taint.
Or it taint.
Yeah, that's an ism, I guess. Kind of like you guys saying orange.
Orange. It's orange.
Orange.
We'll see if we've got it. I think we do.
Confidence is high, is what he's saying. You can smell it.
Ooh, nope. But that, you can see the top of that. I don't know if you can see the difference in the color. But you can see the bottom is brown, the top is black.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We do see it through the lens.
We'll get rid of that top stuff.
You didn't like it, huh? I think even if you've got all of the fire making equipment, lighters and mirrors and magnifying glasses and electrical sources, there's something cool about being capable of doing this. Kind of like harvesting an animal with a bow.
Well, I don't know. Fire making is one of those skills that everybody should have, and it kind of baffles me that a lot of people don't. I guess they don't need it though in their daily life.
Yeah. I mean, how's your nighttime navigation on the ocean skills using nothing but the stars and tides?
I think I could find my way as long as I could see the stars in a relatively straight direction. Never put it to the test.
Well, you know what I'm talking about, Polynesians and
being able to navigate to a specific spot, that's amazing.
Yes. I mean, that, you know, certain things without the lifetime of practice becomes unnecessary.
All right.
actually watching, I can see that the spindle is now starting to develop a depression from the friction of the cordage on it. I can see it as it's spinning, almost like it's on a lathe.
Old-timey lathes were made like this. They had foot pedals with
Yeah.
bow springs on them.
Cool documentary about how lathes basically is what changed the world. The ability to make nuts and screws and all that good stuff. It's going well.
Starting to get a little slippage.
A little breezes.
I'm gonna burn through that one. Just trying to get it to grow enough to be able to transfer it.
It wants it. Fire God, please give him wisdom and balance with this coal. Coy, how do you feel about this? Is he gonna nail it? You've seen him do it many times. Yeah, you think he's got it right here?
Maybe. I don't watch him do it.
You do it too, don't you?
I've done it before, but
Oh, look at that. I hope you have a cool catchphrase for when it lights. If not, you better be coming up with one right now.
Hot! So normally I would have just a giant bundle
And to have a little bit more to hold on to. Nailed it!
fire!
That's pretty cool, man. Whoa!
Crockage. Crockage going on.
All right,
I need a sponsorship right there. Bam.
so in a nutshell,
In a nutshell.
give me the synopsis for the viewers about some tips for primitive friction fire making.
So, number one tip with any outdoor skill is if you think it's something you might need someday in an emergency, it's best to not wait till the emergency to try to figure it out. You need to go out in the woods and just it's fun to play with this stuff. And you know, there's a lot more practical ways to make fire these days. There's I always 99% of the time I've got a Bic lighter in my pocket, but I still come out here and do this stuff, you know, just in case maybe one day I'll need it. But practice, go out and practice, find your stuff, make some mistakes. You're probably not going to get it the first time. It definitely takes a little bit of stamina to do. But yeah, get out there and
Thank you for sharing. Hey, show us your sheath. So you got that Montana Knife Company, and this.
So that's a gator skin that a couple years ago we went to stay with one of my buddies in Louisiana and went out and got a couple of gators, and then I tanned the hide with oak bark. And
So not some commercial tanning creams and chemicals you use.
That's straight up just go out and chip the bark off of an oak tree and then you steep it. It pulls out, it extracts the tannic acids, and it takes, for this, it took maybe 2 months.
Just sitting in a barrel or a bucket?
Sitting in a barrel, and I did a video where I did an elk hide a little while back, and it shows the whole process, but you put it in there, you bring it out, you squeegee it, you put it back in, so it's constantly, like, you're squeegeeing the stuff out and then it's sucking it back in, and you have to constantly, like, add new bark because it sucks up all the tannic acids, and then there's no more, so you have to, like, you're constantly brewing what they call tea, bark tea.
I like it.
How
do people find you?
You can just Google Clay Hayes and they'll find YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff.
Clay Hayes Hunter on Instagram?
Clay Hayes Hunter on Instagram. Google finds everything. So, yep.
Thanks for joining us.
You want to try?
Yeah, I do it.
You just kind of get it going slow to start.
Seems like a lot of this is just being comfortable too, like find a good position where you ain't got a rock in your knee and
Yeah.
kind of got a decent set of balance where you're not, like right now I'm feeling, maybe I should, ah! Oh, almost lost it. Salvaged it.
Take a break.
Take a break?
Yeah.
Oh no! There's very much. Oh. Oh.
Searching more full try.
Yeah.
"2,000 years later."
Oh no! You watch these shows like the one you were on, and of course producers and stuff create some drama, but I mean you've seen it where it's like 3 days and the guy can't make fire. I get it. I mean, I'm just a little bit in here and it's,
Well, we're, like you were talking about earlier, we're sitting here in your backyard and we've got electricity and a fridge full of food, and we're not going to freeze to death. But think about having to do this and not having any of that stuff, having to do this.
right, different sense of urgency and maybe
A little more pressure on you. It sounds much better. Getting rid of that squeaking. 5:16. Oh, keep it going. Don't fuck your coal up. 5:15. Stop.
What? You said stop.
I know, but you got a coal. Holy shit. He's got a coal. God almighty. I didn't. Keep it, wrap it up. Wrap it in there. There you go. Go ahead and wrap it up in there.
Just hold it.
Yeah, just kind of keep that around it and just blow on it a little bit until it starts to expand. As it starts to expand, you can tighten it up a little bit. When you see it growing, just increase the airflow, tighten your bundle around it. A little more air. There you go. Blow it. You can blow on it once it starts to grow. You can blow pretty hard in there. There you go. Look at that.
So what did you think of that? Was that not funny? Clay made it look easy. Oh, I made it look hard. You know, it's frustrating because I like to be good at things. So there's a clue there. It means I need to put in the effort. If I'd work on that this summer and maybe once a summer, twice a summer thereafter, I bet I can keep those skills honed up. It's been 2 decades since I made a friction fire. I am pretty good at being resourceful and finding things in the environment. But what if you don't have a battery? What if you don't have a lighter? What if you don't have a flint? What if you don't have a ferro rod? What if you don't have all of those other things? And we are left with the raw elements that nature provides us. Do you have the stuff? My good buddy Joel Gupton used to say, our greatest resource is resourcefulness. And that needs to be coupled to training. We shouldn't just hope that we'll figure it out. Hope is not a course of action. Proper planning, being sharpen your edge, so to speak. If that's important to you, learn the thing, whatever it might be. Hone it, own it, make it something that you can produce on demand if necessary. And that's not an accident. Bye now. Oh yeah, he's a professional. Hey guys, out here with Mr. Clay Hayes. Look at that sexy mountain man. Running some 10 mil. He's getting ready for a hunting trip. So let's see where you're at. Baseline, 12 yards, piece of C-zone steel. We're just working on the mechanics. Shooter ready. Stand by. Beautiful. 166. That's starting to look nice and smooth.
I like it.
Whoa! 148, baby. Broke the 2.5 seconds. Woo! 224. Woohoo! That's pretty good, bro. Oh, hey,